Hello.
Hello, who's that?
It's Danielle.
Oh, Danielle, it's James's dad. Danielle, please help
Hi.
us. Please help us. James has only been able to connect on Thursday last week and Monday this week, and it's an offence for them to send him on activities because under the Disability Discrimination Act, James is entitled to reasonable adjustment. That means he can go on the activity before he sees his brother and sister or after he sees his brother and sister, but not instead of seeing his brother and sister. That's the law. It's the reasonable adjustment clause in the Disability Discrimination Act. Please, will you comply with it, please?
Okay, so you haven't spoken to you today, Simon?
Well, I've left some messages on your mobile. What's happening?
You've not spoken to James today?
No, what's happening is they're basically what they've started to tell them it's not allowed to send a message to saying James can't call because he's on an activity. Tell them that's illegal. What they did, they just sent a message like an hour before his normal call. Like he calls at 2:30, so at 1:30.
You're not getting enough notice.
At 1:30, they're saying no. It's nothing to do with notice. It's to do with freedom of verbal and facial expression. Do you see what I mean? Yeah, you know Danielle. You know Danielle. When James is at the care home, baby like James got mental capacity of a baby to a toddler at best, and he lives with teenage-like people and adults, and they basically controlled everything he's allowed to say, think, and do ever since he's been there, and the only freedom of expression he's had is during his Skype calls or when we come to pick him up. And that's why the broad thrust of every conversation is for us to pick him up. But he knows that we come in about 7 weeks, and he knows that he'll have his 20 nights maybe a little bit more if you let us. He knows he'll have his 20 nights. If you let us have 22, that would be wonderful. But 20 would still be very good. He knows he'll have his 20 nights, and he's very, very excited about that. But he likes to tell us that he's excited about that. And he just likes to talk about it. The call is every call is the same. It's James is told to look down at his tablet and not look at us, and then we engage with him by saying, "Who do you want to talk to, James?" And then he'll say Simone, and then we say, "What do you want to talk about, James?" And then he knows he's allowed to say Solihull, so he'll say Solihull, and then he'll say, "What do you want to do in Solihull, James?" And then he'll say 4A bus. "Oh, that's nice, James. Where do you want to go on the 4A bus?" "Daddy's old house." "What do you want to do at Daddy's old house, James?" "Shower." And then I say, "Daddy, shower, James. Daddy, change your pad. Daddy, do your deodorant." And then say, "Who's doing your pajamas, James?" And then he'll say, "Sherma." And I say, "What do you want to do next, James?" And he say, "Watch YouTube on the sofa." And James sits on the one sofa and watches his YouTube in his pajamas, and Simone sits on the other sofa and watches YouTube. And Si, his brother Si, Baby Kai, James still calls him. We call him Baby Kai. That's James coined that phrase when he first met. When James first met Si in Queen Alexandra College, Si was about 18 months old. And I said to James, I said, "This is baby Si." And James said, "Baby Kai." We still calling him now. Sherma every day calls Si at least once or twice. She calls him Baby Kai. It's sort of stuck. But James, do you understand? James doesn't have the mental capacity to say that if I go on the activity that you want to send me on, does that mean I won't be able to see my brother and sister and talk to them and say night to them and tell them I love them? He can't. Do you understand? That's why the beautiful government, no, not this government, but I think it was a previous Labour government, they put in this beautiful clause, the Mental Capacity Act and the Disability Discrimination Act, and they put reasonable adjustment in, do you know what I mean, for people like James.
Yeah.
So that, he's not forced to choose between two things he wants to do. He's allowed to do both.
Yeah.
That government did made absolutely fantastic laws, the Disability Discrimination Act and the Mental Capacity Act. They really looked after the disabled with those bills. James has been, James has been abused by the fact that they covered up, the council and the social workers covered up James's disability. They told you he's like a normal man with a touch of autism, which everyone in the world knows is a total fraudulent false statement. James's doctor, GP, Dr. Gandhi, who used to also be my mum and dad's doctor. So James used to go with them to my mum and dad, to see Dr. Gandhi for my mum and dad's cancer appointments, and they also took him for his appointments. And Dr. Gandhi knew how much James, from a baby, absolutely loved his paternal family. James knew that. Dr. Gandhi knew that. But then all of a sudden there was some shock, and I've suffered post-traumatic stress ever since. I've been on clonazepam, sleeping pills ever since. I have about between 2 and 3, sometimes 4 a night to get through the night. What his mother did, she committed very, very serious offences in the court of protection. She committed mass deception, serial fraud, perjury, coercive control. She didn't say to the judge, look, my son's got the mental capacity of a baby according to his GP, his MRI scan and his neurologist, and he doesn't understand the consequences of any words that come out of his mouth, even if they're his own words. But these words today are what we've told him that he has to say to get his bus ride. Do you see what I mean? You want your bus ride, James, you have to say you don't like Daddy. Do you know what I mean? That what they did, they should be in jail for it, really. But I've managed to fight through. It's been a nightmare for the last 9 years. I've managed to fight through the best I can, and I've managed to do the very best I can for James, and which is Skype calls, so he knows that we know where he is. Do you understand? When James Skypes us, he knows that we know where he is. When he can't Skype us, he doesn't know that we know where he is, and he's fretting, and he's no way he has the capacity to tell you that he's fretting because he doesn't know where he is. He just keeps smiling on. You see what I mean? His natural facial expression is a smile, but that doesn't mean he's not fretting. Now because we're coming up now, we're coming up now to pick Jamesy up on. Did I say, was it the 5th of October? So that's it.
Yeah, off the top of my head, sorry, I'm sure you said the 5th.
It's not actually necessary to have a Skype call every single night. He has most of the time, but if could you have at least 4? Could you have 4 Skype calls a week, or maybe 3 or 4? 3 when he goes to his mum's and 4 when he doesn't.
Yeah, Simon, do you want to put that into an email for me, and then we can come up with a plan together?
Okay, if you could, But what it is, if they just send an email saying we're not going to let James call his family because we're going to offend under the reasonable adjustment clause, and to say he's going on an activity and that's he can't see, and then they repeat that again the next day, But none of the emails have said when he can call, when he's going to call. You see what I mean? So as far as we know,
yeah. So there's no clarification.
we think James is
even though
missing.
Maybe going out, maybe he'll call a little bit later. I understand what you're saying. I really do.
Yeah, we just think James is missing because they just keep saying he's on activity.
No, I totally understand. I do understand, Simon.
Do you understand now how much he loves us?
I do. Yeah.
The whole world knows.
I do.
The only people that don't understand are social services and the riders, because they're the ones that put up the false narrative that he's never loved us. Do you see what I mean? That's what they did, and the rest of the world knows what they did, and it's been an absolute nightmare for me to actually fight against the riders who groom the council and the social services and upward care. You see what I mean? I remember in one phone call, Natasha said, James is a normal man with a touch of epilepsy. Anybody would think that would be a total crazy statement when they can see he's like a baby.
Yeah.
You see, just because they've paid a bent psychologist to say that people who have broken arms, fully verified by an X-ray, their arms are not really broken if you pay a bent psychologist to say that the arm is not broken. Do you see what I mean? Can you see what they've done? Can you see what they've done? The neurologist, the MRI scan says James has got the lifetime mental capacity of a baby, and the GP said the same, and the neurologist said the same, and I was present with the neurologist, and when she told us the MRI scan, she said it's bad. She said, I've got bad news. And I said, do you mean James is going to be like a child all his life? She said, no, a baby. She said, he's going to be like a baby all his life. That knocked me down. That knocked me down. That was the worst day of my life. So do you understand where I'm coming from? I've been personally told by the neurologists who read the MRI scan and said that James will be a baby for the rest of his life, and that's exactly what's transpired. Me and James, we've watched the Teletubbies together for 30 years, either on Skype or in person. Can you say? And on my mum's deathbed, when she was dying of cancer and she was on the Liverpool pathway and they was injecting the ever increasing dose of morphine in her arm, and that gave her like about 12 hours. I said to my mum, I said, my mum loved James to bits because she was the one that raised him, basically. He was always left at her house while the riders went to work. And I said to my mum, I said, Mum, I'll promise you I'll make sure James is okay. And my mum replied, I know you will. And look what I've managed to do. I've managed to get him a brother and a sister and a Skype chat with them, most evenings, and a caravan for holidays, for sleepovers during his brother and sister's school holidays. Do you see what I mean? There's nothing more I could have done. We don't want to move to England. We can't move to England. It wouldn't be appropriate. It's just the house prices are so hideously expensive, and the electric service.
Oh, I know, Simon.
We wouldn't be able to afford that. But a 50,000 caravan we can afford, and we don't have to pay council tax on it because it's a holiday home. What we have to pay, what we have to pay is like a share of the holiday park's business rates.
Yeah.
Which is nothing. I think it's about 50 or 60 quid.
No, it's not, is it? No.
It's not very much. And James absolutely adores the caravan. He loves it. He absolutely loves it.
Yeah.
So if I put in writing, just let us all. We always need to know when James can see us and when we can see James.
Yeah. No, I understand.
Because when we don't know when we can see him and when he can see us, then he's missing.
Yeah.
And he can't tell us. He can't tell us. And the lady on the reception had admitted that the 2 Stony Close is not the most appropriate for James, because James is a baby. He's got baby-like mental capacity, where the others have got teenager-like.
Sorry, Simon. Who said this?
You know the main upward care switchboard.
Yeah.
I was explaining everything to a while back when James was missing.
Yeah.
Might be about 9 months ago, and she was like the first person at Upwards Care to recognise James's disability, and I said,
I think I know who you mean. You mean Leah?
I think it was, yeah. She was lovely, absolutely lovely. She was like the first person at Upward Care to recognise James's disability and recognise the riders' mass deception, serial fraud, perjury, and coercive control in the court. Say this or you don't get your bus ride after the hearing. Do you see what I mean? She was the first one to, and she said, I said, why have they placed a 29? Well, he was 18, an 18-year-old. I think he was 18 when he started. No, 20. Was he 21 when he started? He was. He had 3 years at. He had 3 years at the college. So why you placed a 21-year-old man with the mental capacity of a baby with 4 other residents who are teenage like mental capacities? And she said that's not ideal, is it? She said it's not ideal. And I just said, yeah, that's correct, and moved on.
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is not available. At tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up.
Hi Danielle, just to finish off the last call, somewhere we got cut off. I said to the lady, I said, why did they place James with baby-like mental capacity into a house with 4 people with teenage-like mental capacity? James got nothing in common with them. And the other people are adults. The carers are adults. And the lady said it's not ideal, and you see that James is a family man. He spent all his life growing up with his family, and he just wants to be with his family. That's why the broad thrust of everything he's ever said at the care home is when you're picking me up. He doesn't understand why he's with those other people. But I understand that for 9 months of the year, that appears to be the best that can be offered for James, you know, during the 9 months, and then he has 3 months with us during this brother and sister's school holidays. But Danielle, anyway, thank you very much for your call, and I'll email you. About call times, and you know, and letting us know when the next call will be. You know, the last 2 times I just said James is on an activity, and I've left it at that, and then the next day he's on another one, so no idea he's missing. You see. Okay. Thank you very much, Danielle. Thanks for listening. Thank you. Bye bye.